Welcome back to Fire Princess Reviews. I'm Fire Princess Lily here to tell you about comics, cartoons, and other awesome nerd things. So, as you can see, I pulled out my Steven Star because today we're talking about Steven Universe, the movie. Now, of course, you already knew that because you read the title, you clicked on the video, so you wanted to hear about this. So thank you for doing so. Thank you for clicking on this video to find out how I feel about the movie. If you haven't watched the movie, Cartoon Network is going to be running a re-showing on Saturday this week. So long as I upload this before Saturday, I've at least reminded you and done my job. So, if you haven't seen it, want to see it going in clean, I will warn you before we talk about certain plot point spoilers. But before that, I do want to talk about just some things that I really cared about for the movie without being too spoilery. Yeah, that is the goal here today. That's what we're doing. So let's dive right into it. First of all, in case you couldn't tell from the many commercials before going into this, this is a musical. This is 100% a musical in every conceivable way. They don't sing every single line, but there is a lot of singing, a lot of music, and it's all pretty stellar. I am a big crybaby, so I cried a lot during the first time I watched it. We recorded it on our DVR, and I watched it again like a couple hours afterwards, and I cried even more. Maybe because my emotions were just so raw from that first viewing. But yes, if you are a crier, if you really care about the show, and why would you watch the movie if you don't care about the show? You're probably going to cry. Speaking of cartoon movies made for TV, this is a movie. Yes, it's a musical, but it is a movie. It doesn't feel like a long, drug-out cartoon episode that probably could have been put into two 30-minute specials. This movie is over an hour long, so, you know, it's got a good length, but it doesn't feel like 3 or 2 episodes, like mishmash jammed together. It definitely has that total movie runtime feel. Other things to talk about the movie. The animation's super clean. There are a lot of different studios that worked on this movie, including Studio Trigger. Apparently, Studio Trigger was in charge of fight scenes, and so they are super clean. They are just like the cleanest. It's really good, and I enjoyed it a whole lot, especially the way the villain moves in each of these fights. Now, okay, yeah, the way the villain moves, we'll get more into that later. Voice acting's great. You have the entire cast returning for the movie, including the voices of the Diamonds. The Diamonds do make a grand appearance, and everybody kind of gets somewhat of a newish design, more or less, throughout the movie. Steven, of course, getting the biggest redesign. All necks on deck. Steven has when he has a neck. And I like this because it really speaks about how Steven feels about himself. It's been 2 years since the end of the 5th season. Like, not necessarily chronologically, but in terms of the show itself, the movie picks up 2 years after that. So, yeah, so chronologically to the show, not to our time. There we go. Got it. Yes. Score. Steven is looking good. He's looking more grown up. And I really feel like that's just because he's really feeling himself. He's like, he feels confident. He saved the day. He's established peace throughout the known universe. That's everything that Steven's done. Because in Too Many Birthdays and Steven's birthday, we find out that he can kind of change how he looks. In Too Many Birthdays, he of course ages very rapidly as he starts to feel older and older and older about himself. He nearly dies. In Steven's birthday, we find that Connie's surprised that he's actually 14 and not 12 like she is, because he still looks like a kid. And that could be because of the way he feels around the rest of the Crystal Gems and the way that they treat him. They treat him like he's younger, he's a kid, so he views himself like that. So he is short and looks childlike. So 2 years later, he's done a lot, he's accomplished a lot, and so he looks, like a 16-year-old, or, in and around there. Like a teen, an actual, like, mid-teen. So that's really cool. The plot of the movie is really good. I like it. I won't go, like, too heavily into it just yet. I feel it's a good flowing story. I like what they were trying to do, and I feel that they accomplished exactly what they set out to do. And it's amazing how Steven's life can be quantified in a single sentence, which we'll kind of get into here in a second. So that's it. That's it for the non-spoiler parts. I'm sorry, guys. There's so much, and I'm just worried that saying just the wrong thing will ruin the entire movie for you. The villains, super neat and super creative, just the way they did her. Especially in the way her design actually ties kind of into the story, like the way it's going, and so it's really cool. And yeah, that's music's good. I already said that, so I don't know what else to talk about that's not spoiler. So if you haven't seen the movie, you can go ahead and click off now. Go watch it either on Saturday this week when they're re-showing it, or however you particularly are going to do it. I'm not here to judge. So, talking about spoilers in 3, 2, 1, spoiler time. So, Spinel. Spinel is, I wouldn't even say that Spinel is a villain. She's more like a victim of Rose's, Pink Diamond's bullshit. Right? Like, Steven's entire life can pretty much be summed up in the sentence, God damn it, Rose. Just God damn it. Because everything that she did in her life, she did for a lot of selfish reasons. And all it did was let Steven have to clean these up after she's gone. And Spinel's a perfect example. Spinel, I mean, of course, as you know, somebody who watched the movie, was abandoned by Rose in her, like, special garden and made to wait there for 6,000 years until finally Steven's message to the universe makes his way across the spaceways, the airways, and sets her off on this path. What I was talking about with her design is she has, like, a very, like, old Steamboat Willie, original Mickey Mouse kind of style. And, like, as cartoons kind of move forward and away from that design, it's kind of like she came from that era almost, right? So her design is very reminiscent of the past itself. And so it really helps tie into the fact that she is from a different time in Pink's life. A lot of people are having problems with the way Spinel was defeated. They wanted either Steven to die or they wanted Spinel to die. And I guess I'm just kind of asking, what show have these people been watching all this time? Because that's not how Steven Universe handles anything. Yes, I know. We all want a moment in this show where Mecha Hitler cannot be talked down, where Mecha Hitler can't be reasoned with, and Steven has to make that difficult decision. But what I like about Steven Universe and the show itself is that Steven always reaches for compassion first. Always. Even when Jasper was, like, freaking out and, like, unreasonable almost, Steven went to every length to try to offer that olive branch of peace so that he didn't have to, like, shatter anybody or kill anybody, because that's not what he wants. He doesn't want that. And especially in finding out that everything that Rose ever did tended to be that something that just fucking fucks up his shit, he is going to reach for compassion always utmost firstly, because he wants to be better than his mother was. As Rebecca Sugar herself once said, Rose Quartz was a terrible person, and everything bad that happens in Steven's life is kind of just a product of that. And so I really, really enjoyed what they did with Spinel herself. She is, I don't know as somebody who doesn't have a borderline personality disorder, just reading up on those a little bit before talking about it, I could really tell that they were trying to bring some kind of an awareness to that particular thing, because Spinell has all the classic signs of a borderline personality disorder brought on by abandonment issues. That's Spinell to a key, which of course leads her to do violent outbursts and angry things, and then feel really guilty about it. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who has a borderline personality disorder does these things, right? It's just documented that these things do happen with people who do have these kind of personality disorders. So I'm not trying to like shine a light and say, oh, these people experience this one particular thing, haha. No, I'm just speaking as like, this is like the information that I have, and I'm not saying that everybody does it, because not everybody does. But, and those that do, they do have these actions where they'll like rage out against everyone, even the person who's not responsible for their aggressions. Even people who aren't responsible for their aggressions, because they just need to like release. They need to release that. And of course then comes the shame, which, as we saw with Spinell, when she attacks Steven even at the end, and she's like, why am I doing this? You actually liked me, and I don't know why I want to hurt you. And so it is just kind of crazy how well this was done, and kind of how humanizingly this was done, because it could have honestly been really bad. The show is not perfect by any means necessary, but often I feel that it does more good than bad when it's trying to do something. It's not like the Powerpuff Girls, where they introduce a horse character that wants to be a unicorn, and it's a total clusterfuck the entire way. Right? I don't know why I'm cursing so much. It just happens. I do like that the movie itself is kind of the greatest hits of the show. It is Steven putting pieces, back together, trying to get from the starting point where he very first started back to where he was at the start of the movie, right? So I think that's pretty cool. It's kind of a hero's journey within a hero's journey. It's like hero's journeyception. And it's really good. And just the way things happen, like, instead, this time Sapphire gets to save Ruby rather than the other way around. And just the friendship between Steve and Amethyst is so good. Like, that is maybe one of my favorite songs from the movie. I have listened to that song on repeat so many times. The song it's called No Matter What, and it's just Steven trying to remind Amethyst of who she is, and it's good. It's just like all good. The only time I felt particularly uncomfortable in the movie was when Steven and Greg fuse into Steg, just because they're uncomfortably attractive, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's just weird for me, right? And honestly, just looking on Twitter and other places, a lot of people kind of feel the same way about the problem there. And so, I don't know. That's a good JoJo reference, I suppose. I don't watch JoJo. That's my bad. But I do like the song that Steg sings. I wish they had named him Mr. Universe, because that would have been great. Or even Mr. Multiverse, as he's multiple universes in one. Right? But it was a real good song, Return of Opal. We don't get Sugalite or Sardonyx back, so it's just like, that's the only Pearl fusion, other than Alexandrite, which of course she showed up in the trailers. Everything about this movie is pretty good. I know that a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings about it, or maybe even they don't feel that it was very good. They don't like that Steven once again talked his way out of the fight. As I mentioned, I enjoy that Steven is compassionate in that regards, because there's a lot of fighting, and I'm not saying that fighting isn't necessarily important or there's not reasons to do so. I just enjoy the fact that in this one instance, This one instance in cartoons are, of course, aimed towards children. In this one instance, this one cartoon, it is trying its best to teach that before you throw a punch, before you, kick somebody in the face or the guts, before you fight, reach for another way, a way of understanding. Sometimes there is no understanding, and it has yet to teach that lesson, but it is maybe working towards it. I don't know if we're going to get a 6th season. I kind of hope we do, just because I want to know more about the gems of Little Homeworld. Little Homeworld's great, by the way, too. I really love that. I like that the gems are integrating with the populace. It's really fun. And I like the diamonds. I never thought that I would particularly care for the diamonds, but they're so silly, right? They are so silly in this movie, and it's real good. Like, when they show up at the end of the movie to be like, yep, we're going to move here, and White's like, oh, this is bad. Do you clean up after yourselves? Bitch, you live like this? They're so extra the whole time, and I just love it. Of course, they take Spinel back with them, which, going from one codependent relationship to another, not necessarily great. Not necessarily great at all, but I'm really hoping that they somehow, all 4 of them, heal each other from the disappearance of Pink Diamond and the various ways that she left them behind. Maybe that'll happen. I'm not saying it will, but I'm mixed. That's the weakest part of this whole movie, is the ending, I suppose. Just the whole, the world nearly got destroyed, or it's in the process of dying. Steven can kiss it better, which, cool, okay. And instead of poofing Spinel and locking her away, which, she doesn't necessarily deserve a poofing, because she is just doing what she feels she has to do because of the abuse she suffered from abandonment by Rose. And so I kind of don't know what was the right thing to do necessarily in that situation, because she's just another victim of Rose's carelessness, right? Rose necessarily isn't evil, she just was absolutely careless. She didn't I can leave Spinel and tell her to sit there for 6,000 years. She'll think she's playing a game, and she'll love it for as long as, she exists. It's fine, because I'm a diamond, she's a Spinel, and they don't have quite feelings like I do, right? So it's totally fine to just leave her there. She feels like she's serving a purpose, and that's all she needs. Same with leaving Bismuth trapped for thousands of years in a bubble and never explaining to her friends what happened, why she is gone. Instead lying to them, because she feels that that's a nicer way to spare their feelings, right? Instead of, I didn't agree with what Bismuth wanted to do, so I poofed her and bubbled her. Class I'm a diamond is what we do. She just got separated from us on a mission, so hopefully she's okay, but maybe not. And it's nicer to let her friends feel like their friend served a greater cause than to be like, well, we had a disagreement and I put my foot down, right? So that's Rose in a nutshell. And clearly, the ending of this movie, the message is happily ever afters don't happen. It's always something you're working for. You're always working to have a continually happy life. That's the whole point. And so with Spinel going off with the diamonds, maybe that's not the most realistic kind of ending for this. There's going to be a train, that's great. But I don't know what else you could do with her because she just wanted to be loved, right? She just wanted to be cared for, and the Diamonds are looking for somebody to care for, so it's really great. And all of White Diamond's like hand waving and just like total, whatevers, those are really great. And I know that she was terrible, and this is kind of the importance of Steven as he's teaching these immortal alien beings the meaning of compassion and the value of it. And so I just like Steven Universe a whole lot. And that's it. That's all I have to talk about, all I have to say about it. What did you think of the movie? How'd you feel about the ending? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I mean, I saw somebody in like 11 different Twitter feeds, they could not stop, bad-mouthing this movie, and they're free to have their opinion, absolutely. Like, I'm not here to bag on that because everybody feels differently about, media. We all interpret art differently, and that's important. So, next time we are going to talk about Wong Kong, that comic I already told you about, and yeah, that's going to be the next video. But it was important to talk about the Steven Universe movie while it's still relevant, while Encore is going to happen this Saturday. It's important to get this video out as fast as possible, so that's why we're doing that today. So, until then, until next time, love cartoons, love comics, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!